Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in today. My name is Callum Adam. I'm a young and inspiring rugby coach based in Scotland. I've decided to run this series with some of the top coaches in the Northern Hemisphere, where we can work together to share some knowledge on good coaching practices in particular parts of the season, looking at off-season, pre-season and in-season. And this is how we look to best approach it to ensure the best outcome overall. Thank you and I hope you enjoy. Hi everybody, welcome back to a new episode of In the Know. Today I have Marco Bortolami, who's the head coach of Benetton. Hi Marco.
Hello, hi.
It's great to have you on board. As you've seen in the last episodes, we've been chatting to some of the top coaches, and I really appreciate your time, given your busy schedule, to come on board today. Really appreciate it. Our topic focus for today is how does a coach go about planning pre-season, and how much of an impact do assistant coaches have when assisting the head coach? You ready to get going?
Yeah, let's go.
Great stuff. Okay, it's always good to break the ice with our guests, so we're just gonna have some informal questions. So basically some nice easy questions. What is your favorite food to eat for dinner?
Um, I would say hamburgers.
Oh yeah.
I know
Oh
it's
nice.
not a very Italian one,
Yeah.
but obviously the Italian dishes are quite common to me. But I love to do hamburgers, different styles.
Mm.
So I love meat. That's probably why.
Ah, fantastic. Great stuff. Where's your favorite place for a holiday?
Um, Very quiet place, and I don't need to travel a lot, probably because I travel a lot because my job, and but anyway I can relax and maybe read a book. It's a perfect place for me.
Fantastic. Yeah. Which goes on to the next point. What book is by your bedside table?
Sorry, say it again.
I'll say, what book is by your bedside table?
I don't understand the question, sorry.
So, no, what book do you normally read at night?
Oh, book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my
That's all
bad.
right.
I like history-based books, so real stories. But then I read a lot about every strategy you can use in terms of mindset to coach the team of the players. But
Mm.
that's my job, so that's something that really interests me, and I study a lot. But if I have to read something just for fun, it's going to be history-based books.
Ah, fantastic, great stuff. That's one thing I really we have in common is that I really love history books. Especially over the last 100 years, the world wars and all that. We're very interested of. It's great stuff. What pets do you have?
I've got a cat and a dog, but the dog is my preferred one, so it's a German Shepherd.
Uh, Great stuff, good stuff. Okay, are you more of a singer or a dancer?
I'm not very good at both, so I would say nothing, neither dancing or singing.
Nah, okay, it's fantastic. Okay, outside of rugby, what is your favorite sport?
Motorsport 100%, and so either MotoGP or Formula One that are my preferred ones. Probably if I didn't make it my way into rugby was probably the other way was probably my dream. So motorsport 100%.
Great. I watched the Assen MotoGP over the weekend in the Dutch,
Yeah,
which is great, fantastic.
yeah.
What is your favorite movie?
My third movie is The Gladiator, because obviously history of the Romans and obviously the character.
Yeah, good, great stuff. What is your favorite quote?
Never say never because fears are just an illusion, which is a Michael Jordan quote. And I think our mind play a lot of tricks with ourselves, and we see limits, and we see big challenges that we sometimes think we cannot overcome. And that's my perfect one because that give you a feeling that you can chase anything that you really believe in.
Of course, great stuff. Okay, how many languages can you speak?
I can speak Italian, English, and French. A
Oh,
little
great
bit of
stuff.
Spanish, but just a little bit.
Okay, okay, and final one. Where did you go on your last holiday?
My last holiday was up in the mountains during the winter, so I ski a little bit. I'm decent, not a pro, but I can get downhill, and yeah, was up in the mountains and Dolomites here in Italy.
Oh, great stuff. Fantastic. Well, that's just an informal questions to help break the ice there. Now we're going to get into kind of the main kind of nitty gritty question, like to call them. So, are we all good to get going there, Marco?
Yeah, yeah, let's start.
Fantastic. So, first question is, why is preseason so important?
It's very important because I think you need to cover all your basics that you want to carry on during the season. Um, Obviously, there's no pressure of the game, so you can focus yourself on basic skills and specific skills, and also team organization that you need throughout the year. And it's very important as well because you have a lot of time, but it's very easy to waste this time and then find yourself chasing things when the season starts. So
Mm,
probably I grow in terms of my ability to manage preseason, and I'm into my third preseason as a head coach, and obviously have developed a lot. And it depends as well how long is the preseason.
yeah,
But let's say you need to cover 90% of the structure of the basic skills
yeah.
that you will need during the season, because then you need to prepare games, then you need to adapt, you need to change maybe how you do things, but you need a solid base.
Ah, great stuff. Which, yeah, I mean, that great detailed answer there, Marco. I mean, it goes into my next point. Before planning for a new season, how do you develop an action plan to ensure the most out of the season ahead?
um, I think you got to stay through with your philosophy first of all. So I think many coaches don't sit down, don't reflect on what is their philosophy, how they want to coach, how they want the team to train, and how they want to play the game.
Yeah,
So first of all, before you plan your session, you plan your weeks. You got to reflect on that, because that will drive your decision throughout preseason and during the season. And it's very important to stay through what you believe it makes a difference. So that was definitely something I went through 3 years ago, and I revisit my philosophy every year at the end of every season and at the start of every season. Because if I need to adapt, because I do feel either the game is changing or the needs of the team are changing, you got to adapt that. And that, to me, that will drive every decision that you got to make on the run during the preseason and during the season. um, and obviously you need to reflect of your last season. What are the areas of the game that you want to carry on in the same way, what areas you want to adapt, or what areas you want to explore, maybe change. So yeah, I would say the biggest part is reviewing either the season and yourself.
ah, great stuff. And I mean, you'll know in that professional environment with the time that you have in the preseason, is could you tell me a bit about when you, in terms of your schedule, are you trying to cram as much as you can in, or are you trying to space it out so players actually get the gist of it?
It depends how long do you have preseason, because, for example, last year was a World Cup year, so we had 16 weeks of preseason, so
Okay,
very long. Three friendly games and 13 weeks of preseason, so it was very long. So we had plenty of time to do everything we needed, and also to develop younger players. This year, for example, we got an 8 weeks preseason
yeah,
with two friendly games included, so it's way shorter, and obviously we need to be more efficient. Um, to me, um, less is better.
yeah,
So that means that if you overcomplicate, if you chuck too many things in because you have a lot of time, then you maybe lose direction, and you maybe lose the focus on the things that really matter in the way you want to play the game.
of
So
course.
that's why the reflection is going to be very important, and selecting the things you really want to invest time will have a huge benefit. Um, so something I said, for example, last year to my coaches, it was 20% of the things we do we have 80% of the impact on the results. So we need to, we obviously, we need to cover all areas of the game, all aspects of the game, but we need to select what are the 20% of the things we really need to nail every week, every day, to have the biggest impact on the results, on the score, because ultimately that's what you have to do.
Great stuff. That's such a again, a really detailed answer, and that's simple and is better than overcomplicating and making it so big, which is it's a great answer, Marco. So, I mean, how do you work with assistant coaches for the preseason schedule?
Yeah, yeah, I go back to simplicity, because the way I coach my team, which is obviously a professional team, is not that far from the way I would coach an amateur team. And I got a lot of coaches that play with me when I was young, and then now they are coaching amateur teams, and we discuss a lot, and I share a lot with them, because I do feel that the general principles and the way you want to coach and you want your team to train and you want to play the game as well are
Yeah,
very transferable. And to me, one of the most important principles is simplicity. If
yeah,
it's simple enough, it can be delivered under pressure. When you add complexity in the way you want to play the game, in any aspects of the game, obviously there's always an element of complexity.
yeah.
But when you deliberately decide.
Mm-mm. Hello.
Well, Carlo, I
Sorry
lost
about
you.
that. I
No
had no
worries.
idea what happened there. Sorry about that, Marco.
No worries. What did you finish? Did you get my full answer or not about simplicity?
I lost last about 20 seconds or so of that.
Okay, so I'll go back to that.
Please.
So I want just to take a step back to simplicity, because I do feel the way I coach my team is very transferable to an amateur team as well. I got a lot of friends that play rugby when I was young. They play rugby with me when I was young, and now they're coaching at amateur level. But we discuss and I share a lot with them, because I do feel simplicity is one of the most important things you got to keep in mind when you coach a team,
Yeah,
because when you add complexity, and the game is complex, because obviously you need elements of variation and organization, but you got to make sure your team is able to deliver that under maximum pressure.
yes.
Otherwise, you just get in the way of the players, and they're not as effective as they can be. Obviously, the higher the quality of the players you have, the more you can add. But neuroscience tell us that when something is too articulated or is too complicated, it becomes more difficult to be delivered consistently under pressure. And also the best players cannot handle too many information or too many complex roles at the same time under pressure.
Great stuff.
So the roles of assistant. So I think one of the biggest, the most important meetings you need to have in preseason, or before even preseason starts with your assistant coaches, is to agree in the way you want to play the different aspects of the game. So let's say attack, let's say defense, let's say breakdown, let's say how you want to exit from your half. So you got to agree on the general principles and what you want out of it. Once you have agreed what are the needs of the game, or what are the needs in the way you want to play the game, then you can break it in small parts and decide what are the details you want to train every week. But if you don't do this first step, this first process to agree the way you want to play the game, then you can find yourself in a situation where one of your assistants go one way, and maybe you feel it's better to go to a different way, and then you create disorientation either in the coaching staff or within the team, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
Obviously, then if you have the ability to discuss and find a better way to do things, it's not the end of the world. But sometimes, if there are strong personalities in the staff or in the team, that could be a problem. So my first suggestion is have robust discussion around how you want to play the different aspects of the game, because that is time well invested. That's so then you can plan for preseason. um, so I normally allow my assistant coaches to design their plan, their progression throughout preseason. Obviously, I'm going to my fourth preseason as a head coach, and my staff has developed, has changed, but we have been this year, for example, we are very consistent coming from last year. So we have a clear understanding of how we want to play the game. So it's pretty straightforward. But to me, it's very important they work backwards as well. So they got to make sure by the last preseason week we got everything in place. What we need to do the week before. So we had all the elements and from the last week of preseason to the first one. And obviously, you go from the very complex that you need to finish. Let's say your preseason, and then you break it into simpler tasks at the start. Um, the way I would like my assistant coaches to growth in their planning or preseason is, yes, you can work basic skills, but you can work basic skills in a situation that will transfer way faster into a team environment or in-game
Yeah.
environment. So you got those scenarios where you not only work a skill, but you add the other elements that are going to be crucial during the games. So let's say passing the ball. When you play a game of rugby, you never pass the ball alone without an element of decision making. So
Of course.
even if you start the first session, there has to be a progression where you go into maybe a very simple decision making when to pass the ball before or after contact, so the players has the right feeling straight away from session one of what the game will look like once they have progressed throughout the preseason.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I give them a lot of independency, and they can choose the drills. Obviously, we discuss the drill, and to me, it's very important. There's some elements of decision making and elements of scanning. For example, I see a lot of coaches that design drills that they look very good, but sometimes they don't have the right inputs to the players. So let's say a visual input is very important instead of a color or a cone, because then during the game you don't have colors or cones to react. You just got an opposition in front of you, and you got to react to what you look at. So it's very important. Even the simple drills offer the players the opportunity to train what they need during the game, which is take information from the opposition and react accordingly. So it's around methodology mainly, my discussion with the assistant coaches. So I
Yeah.
challenge them, and I challenge the way they coach as well, because we all have preferences. Some coaches have preferences for very simple drills. Some coaches have preferences for very detailed drills that need a lot of explanation, and finding the right balance and mixing the styles of coaching as well. I think is very important to offer the players the right environment to grow as quick as possible.
Ah, great stuff, Marco. I mean, again, very, very good answer. I mean, detailed as well. So I'm really, everyone, I'm assuming all the viewers will be taking notes at that point for when it, for when it comes out on YouTube. But it's just, it's very good. I mean, even as you, I think right at the start, you were saying about even there's not really much difference between amateur and professional. So a lot of people think like it's just this, head and toe, but head and shoulders above everything else. However, obviously in a professional environment, there's players that are dedicated to their sport and craft day in, day out. But I totally understand that, and it's great to hear that from you. And I was just wondering, in this perspective now on, would you say pre-season is more skills based, or is there any structure included, or is it fitness? Is there a ball, no ball? I mean, run us through how a pre-season typically looks your way.
Yeah, I think I've got a very holistic approach to rugby. So everything has to be in preseason. So there's elements of team culture, because if you want to work hard, you got to agree at what working hard look like.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we have all different perception. If we do feel preparation is important and we need to spend energy, we need to agree on what quality preparation look like. So to me, definitely pre-season is there's a physical element which is very important, and again, obviously the conversation I have with my head of SNC, and what are the elements of the amount of running we do, the amount of contact we do, and we are developing this way of analyzing those things as well. Then there's a 100% skill element, but if you can pass the ball without running fast, it's not going to be effective again. So everything we do fitness wise is with the rugby ball.
yeah,
Then if some players need to top up because they struggle to get the right metrics with the game or with the ball, we cover that. But ideally, we want the session to be as hard as possible in terms of conditioning, and also skill element or fitness elements that players don't need to run in isolation.
gotcha.
And so my ideal session is, let's say I plan for 60-minute session, and after 50 minutes, my head of SNC come to me and he tells me, listen, all the boys hit the targets. That's more than enough today, and I'm happy. If they need to top up too much, that means I got to challenge myself and create the right session to expose my players to the physical element that we need to play the game.
Gotcha.
Um, and obviously, there's a lot of skill development elements, and we try to develop those elements in different sessions where there's more coaching, so there's more input from the coaches, and maybe the numbers of reps are not as high as we want to do a field session, because we concentrate on the quality of execution. But once we are on the field, it's all about speed and intensity.
Yeah,
So the coaching element goes really down. Let's say from 8-10, when we do the field session, it goes to 2 or 3. So yes, you have small interventions, small bits to an individual player, but very quick and very fast, because then he needs reps. And I think trusting your players that they got to find a way where they can deliver the right technique at the right intensity, because
yeah,
ultimately that will deliver good results. So I think the preseason is a great way where you can test different techniques, different sessions, different parts of the way you want then to coach the team during the season, and then finalize maybe those little bits. Um, yes, you can get one session wrong in preseason, it's not the end of the world. But then if you need to reflect on that and take the learning forward, because then during the season, obviously, you got less time, and you got to be 100% perfect in the way you plan the session. So again,
yeah,
um, preseason as well is a good time to reflect with your players in terms of their personal development. So whether it's mindset, whether it's attack, defense, of specific skills, positional skills. But I think, because in preseason you do a lot of stuff, it's very important individual players has a clear understanding of one or two things that are their priorities.
yeah,
So it's very important as a staff, your assistant and your SNC department as well. You got to be aligned on what makes the difference for player X and player Z, and then you communicate that to them very clearly, very direct, because obviously the session and the training week will offer them plenty of opportunities to improve every aspect of the game. But individually, I do think they need one or two strong focuses that can have a massive impact on their game.
Great stuff, Marcus. Yeah, and again, just referring back now, just to kind of back to our title. This is the second part of the question. So, as you're kind of going into a new season, which will be in the coming weeks, and you're prepping for 24, 25, how do you refocus a team? You know, how, first of all, how do you refocus a team? How do you include the assistant coaches in refocusing that team so then your all eyes are focused on the next season? So obviously you're not bringing any negativity or anything that happened in the season prior. How do you as a coach shift the mindset over to the next season?
Um, So I do believe preseason is about the future.
Yeah.
So what happens in the past is behind you. Yes, you take your learnings and you reflect maybe on some aspects of what's happened in the past, but that should be pretty straightforward. I've done that with every single player before we left for holidays, and once we start a new preseason, it will be a blank page, and we need to focus in front of us because that's where we're going. So first of all, is about the journey. So is about the phases of preseason. It's very important players have a clear understanding of what we need from phase one, phase two, and phase three, let's say. So what you need from the first 3 weeks, for example, let's say now we got 8 weeks of preseason. What we want out of the first 3 weeks, what we want out of the second block of 3 weeks, and what we want out of the two friendly games.
Mm.
Because that if they have a clear understanding, then they can fit in the program and they can be more effective. And then obviously, as I said before, we reflect on our culture as a team. Obviously, my job is to motivate the team, and I got a theme of the season going forward, just to give them a perspective and something bigger to belong. But as well, they need to contribute. They need we revisit every 2 seasons because the team is growing. We got, let's say, from 10 to 15 new players. We got quite a large squad, let's say 60 players with the academies. So it's a very large squad.
Yeah.
And so let's say physiologically we change from 10 to 15 players every season, which is a good number, but the biggest block is staying every year. So I revisit the values that the players want to agree every 2 years. But obviously every year we sit down and I ask the players what respect look like in the way we do things.
Of
What
course.
are the behaviors connected to this word? Because I want them to reflect and be very clear of what are the behaviors we want as a group to see on the field and off the field as well.
Yeah, good. Fantastic. I noticed you said a couple of times now that 8 weeks you have for pre-season. So, obviously, a lot of coaches in the generic background of amateur to semi-pro to professional, a lot of them will think fitness, S&C at the start, maybe a bit of skills in the middle, and then get ready for games. Tell me, for yourself and Benetton and what you've done in the previous seasons, what have the last 3 or 4 weeks of preseason really looked like for you? And like,
Um,
and kind of
yeah.
content.
So I tell you the general plan we have. So week one is basic skills and obviously broken play situations. So we will challenge them in terms of physical ability throughout conditioning games and very open games, not too strict, not too organized. Second week we add all the set piece, so scrum, lineouts, restart techniques. So we start to go deep into more specifics. and then we have from week 2 we have a lot of meetings in the way we want to play the game, just to
Yeah.
make sure we are all on the same page with the players as well. Then third week we go into attack and defense organization. What are the principles? What is the general structure we want?
Mm.
Then we will have a week off, and then from week 5 we will have the international back. So that week is going to be a very important week, because players that start preseason with us will present to the international guys what we have been through the first 3 weeks. So we align on everything has been done in the first 2 weeks. Obviously, the international players need to catch up a little bit if there's some variations, but they have enough quality to do that. And then
Yeah.
we move forward as a group. And obviously, week 6 and 7 will be, sorry, 5 and 6 will be finalizing all the team structure we need, basic organization, let's say how we exit our half, how we want to attack in the opposition 22, how we want our face play to work from 40 meters to 22. So we got a solid base to start the season, because then the 2 friendly games we will test, we'll see where we are at, and then we will add the specificity of a special move or something that is specific to the opposition.
Great stuff, Marco. Fantastic. So that's the end of our question set up there. So now we finish up with scenario. Now, a scenario which you'll see from previous videos in the know. Basically, it's generic to any coach from amateur all the way up to professional. So I'll give you a scenario here and just get your answer from it. So a young coach who has only been assistant coaching for 5 seasons in total at age grade level, all the way up to under 18s. Basically, he's been helping out in the preseason setup in regards to preparations. He's making the transition over to adult rugby. How does the mindset shift for a coach who's going from age grade to adult rugby, especially in that preseason time?
Obviously, he will probably ask himself if he's good enough to make the transition, because that's what's happened to me as well. And first of all, he's got to have the belief he's going to be good enough, and reflect on his philosophy, because to develop trust within the team and with the staff and the players, um, you need to be consistent with your reaction, with your messages, in the way you react as well on the of what's happened on the field and off the field. So you need a strong philosophy. You maybe need to share that with the team as well, because they need to understand why you make some decisions. Then obviously you need to sit down with the staff to agree on the elements of the game, just to clarify that.
Yeah.
Maybe have some inputs as well, and maybe as well give the other people opportunity to contribute and take responsibility. um, and as well make sure you choose the right players to be the leadership group. That's probably one of the critical elements that he needs to make, because he needs to understand what are the players that can carry on his messages on the field, in the changing room when he's not there,
Yeah.
because that is going to be one of the critical elements of for the team to work and be proactive when tough time comes, because any teams face tough times, whether in preseason, start of the season, or during the season. And how the leaders communicate on the field and off the field in the change room is very important, because you need consistent messages to the team for the team to grow and also overcome those big challenges. So create this structure around him to support him, but also to understand why he makes those decisions. And never be scared to explain why he's making some decision, why he wants to play move A instead of move B, because he feels is the right thing to do, and he needs to explain that. The more you explain, the more you offer the other people, the people around you, an opportunity to understand what you want, where you come from, and why you make those decisions.
Great, no way, it's fantastic. That's a really detailed answer. Great input there, Marco. Just to let you know that that's the end of our episode there. So I really appreciate your time, Marco. Again, very, very detailed answers, which is great for myself and the viewers in terms of what we take from that. But no, I really appreciate your time, Marco. And I wish you all the best for the upcoming season. I know you'll be enjoying your downtime now before all that kickstarts again. But no, I mean, I would like to thank you for your time again, Marco, and I wish you all the best for going forward.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, and I hope it's going to be interesting and a good value for everybody.
Thank you.